Welcome back everyone to our gameplay series of X4 Foundations. In today's video, it's time for the battle. Now we're not quite 24 hours into the gameplay, we're only about 21 and a half to 22 hours in, but a couple of things have happened that let me know it was time to go ahead and get started. And we'll take a look at those here in just a second. But first, before we get to the battle footage, I wanted to set you guys up, give you one last look at our fleet so you'll know the types of ships and also the number of ships that we're dealing with, and then we'll get right into the battle footage. And speaking of the battle footage, unfortunately some of this footage it's got some stuttering to it and a few freezes here and there. Unfortunately, I can't really help that because during those sequences there's a lot of ships on the screen, there's a lot of fighting going on, a lot of movement, and that takes up a lot of CPU from the game itself and causes frame drops all by itself. But whenever I add in the fact that I'm also using recording software, that just makes it doubly bad. So I expected to see some of those. I was hoping I wouldn't have them, but unfortunately there are some. I've tried to cut out as much of that as I can so that I can just show you guys the highlights that are as smooth as I can possibly make them. But one of the things I want to do is share with you guys our final fleet makeup. And we have one additional ship type here, and we're looking at it here on screen, and that is the Nemesis Sentinel. This is actually an HOP ship that I went and purchased the blueprint for, and we've made somewhere around 20 of those. So let's go ahead and pull up the fleet. Most of this fleet you've seen before. The standard makeup, 1 medium and 8 small fighters. Most of this being Cerberus vehicles. Toward the end, we've got into a few Gorgon Sentinels, and then finally the Nemesis Sentinels. You notice that these final few wings are more than 9 or 10 ships in them, and that's because I was basically just building a bunch of ships and throwing it into wings and trying to get that as evened out as I could. Now this final wing is my personal wing. So you notice that I've changed one of the Nemesis Sentinels to personal fighter. If we come back out, that's actually this ship right over here. And I essentially chose the Sentinel with the lowest overall piloting score by the AI, and I decided that's the one that I would actually use. So we've got a couple more ships here that have just been built that you see within the station here. These guys have just finished up building. I'm going to add them in here. So that's going to give us a fleet of, a wing of 10 here. And overall, I actually haven't done a total count in a while, but I think we're somewhere around 185 if you want some sort of an estimate there. And again, I'll leave this up on there so you guys can pause the video and count these if you want. That should give you plenty of time to take care of that. But let's take a quick look at the Nemesis Sentinel. Okay, so it's a medium-sized ship, and it's a Corvette style. So it doesn't have the hull that the others had, the frigates had. Much more hull, almost double in some cases, the hull of this particular ship. But one thing that this thing does have, actually two things. Number one, I just really love the look of this particular ship. The other thing is it has 5 weapon slots. And as I move this thing around, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. It is vicious looking. And then, of course, a couple of turrets around the top. So this thing is pretty awesome. That's what I'm actually going to be flying, and that's most of the footage that you're going to see is going to be from the pilot's view out of my Nemesis Sentinel. So with that in mind, now let's take a look at one final thing that let me know that it was time to go. And time to go ahead and get this started. Now you notice that all of the ships that were surrounding our HQ, all of our fighters, are now gone. They are in preparation. I've moved them over in preparation for the attack because as I was flying around the world, I came across Bright Promise and notice, oh wow, there's a bunch of ORA, which is the Ossian Raiders, bunch of factories over here. So as I got as close as I reasonably could, I noticed all of these are basically build storages. There might be 1 or 2 of them that have actually started construction, but for the most part, they're build storage. But that was not the important part to me. What it did was it signaled exactly where their home base was, because all of these are gathered around a jump gate. And so if we come over to Thea, you notice I didn't get very far in here. I managed to get one scout ship in here. Unfortunately, I didn't have time to drop a satellite. I tried, but we were destroyed in very short order. I tried to send a second one over and didn't even make it close to that far. I made it to about right here, and they have a fairly sizable fleet already amassed in this area and a much larger one over here. This is actually where their shipyard is located, is over in Thea. So that's what we're dealing with. So I simply took all of our ships, and you can see I've got them all huddled up in one massive blob here, waiting over in Profit Center Alpha. So all I have to do is, in addition to bringing my wing over here, we'll simply fly over into Bright Promise, and we'll last as long as we can last. I can tell you that, again, before we get to that battle footage, their fleet was not made up of as many small and medium-sized fighters as I expected. It's almost entirely made up, in percentage-wise, of extra-large and large ships. So that's going to immediately put us at a huge disadvantage. But I think we held our own pretty good. But that's going to do it for the introduction in this video. So now, sit back, relax, and just enjoy the show.
Awaiting orders.
Eureka 8.
Awaiting orders.
Behemoth, Vanguard.
Damage is getting serious.
Awaiting orders.
Eureka 8. Mark 1. Eureka 8. Mark 1.
Requesting immediate backup. Don't do it. Awaiting orders.
Predator Vanguard.
Awaiting orders. You're asking for it. Please don't kill us.
Defense drone. Behemoth Vanguard. Eureka 8, Mark 1. Behemoth Vanguard.
Requesting immediate backup.
Eureka 8, Mark 1. Repair drone. Repair drone. Eureka 8, Mark 1. Eureka 8, Mark 1.
Alrighty. You off.
Behemoth Vanguard.
You've made a serious mistake. You really don't fit here.
Repair drone. Eureka 8 Mark 1. Repair drone.